Your son gave me the keys. If you do not like it, call the police." My daughter-in-law, Heather, laughed in my face with that sharp laugh that twisted my stomach. We were standing in the entryway of my beach condo, the one I bought with 30 years of honest work. Vince, the real estate agent who was with me, stared at the scene, unable to believe what was happening. We had arrived to prepare the place and put it up for rent. Instead, we found Heather, her parents Artie and Cheryl, and her two siblings, Kyle and Brandy, living there as if they owned it. There were clothes hanging on my terrace, dirty dishes in my kitchen, open suitcases in my bedroom. And her, standing in front of me with her arms crossed, challenging me. Mark authorized it. This place was empty, going to waste. We needed it more than you did. Her words hit me in the chest. I felt my legs tremble. I pulled my cell phone from my purse with shaky hands and dialed a number. Heather let out another cackle. "Are you really going to call the cops? Go ahead, do it. You are going to look like the bitter mother-in-law who denies her own family a roof over their heads." But when she heard the voice that answered on the other end, her face changed. It went white, completely white. And for the first time since I met her, she was silent. But let me explain how I got to that moment. Because this story did not begin that day at the beach. It began much earlier, when I still believed that family was sacred, that a mother's love was enough, and that good intentions always won. How wrong I was. My name is Lillian. I am 70 years old, and I have worked my entire life. I was an accountant for 32 years at a firm in the city. It was not a glamorous job, but it was respectable. Every morning I got up at 6, made myself a coffee, reviewed my papers, and went out to face the day with my head held high. I learned from a young age that money is earned with effort, that every dollar has value, and that nobody gives you anything in this life. My husband thought the same way. Together, we built everything we had. A modest but comfortable house, savings for our old age, and that condo on the coast that we bought 15 years ago when we still dreamed of retiring in front of the ocean. It was a small, simple place, 2 bedrooms and a terrace where you could see the ocean stretch to infinity. We bought it with sacrifice, paying monthly payments for years, giving up expensive vacations and fancy restaurants. Every brick of that place represented an extra hour at the office, a weekend working while others rested, a simple dinner at home instead of going out. But it was worth it. When we finally finished paying it off, my husband and I toasted with cheap wine out of plastic cups, sitting on the terrace, watching the sunset. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. After that, we spent entire summers there. I would cook fresh fish we bought at the local market, and I'd read detective novels in the hammock we hung between 2 columns, and at night, we would walk barefoot on the sand. We did not need much to be happy. Just being together, listening to the sound of the waves, feeling the salt breeze on our faces. Those were good years, years that now seem to belong to another life. When my husband died 3 years ago, something inside me died too. I do not know how to explain it. It is as if the world lost its color. Everything became gray, flat, meaningless. For months, I could barely get out of bed. Mark, my son, came to see me often at first. He brought me food, made sure I took my medications, cleaned the house. He was a good son, or so I thought. The beach condo was abandoned. I did not have the strength to go back. Every corner of that place reminded me of him. The chair where he sat with his book, the mug he used for his morning coffee, the pillow that still held his scent. It was too painful. So I locked the door and did not return. For 3 years, that condo sat empty, waiting. The curtains drawn, the furniture covered with old sheets, the silence accumulating in every room like dust. But 6 months ago, something changed. I realized I could not go on like this. My pension barely covered my basic expenses. My medications were getting more expensive, food too, and the savings I had so carefully guarded were running out faster than I thought. One night, sitting in my kitchen with the month's bills spread out on the table, I ran the numbers. If I kept on like this, in less than 2 years, I would have nothing. And then what? Become a burden on my son? Ask him for money like a beggar? No, never that. That is when I thought of the condo. It was just sitting there, empty, going to waste, while I was drowning in debt. If I rented it out, I could generate at least $1,200 a month. That would be enough to live with dignity, to not have to hold my hand out, to maintain my independence. The decision was painful. I felt like I was betraying my husband's memory, that I was turning our sanctuary into a business transaction. But I also knew that he would have wanted me to be okay, that he would not want me to struggle just to hold on to ghosts of the past. I contacted Vince, a real estate agent recommended by a neighbor. He was a man in his 50s, with a kind smile and professional manners. He came to my house, reviewed the condo's paperwork, and explained the process. Mrs. Lillian, with its location, near the boardwalk, I can get you good tenants. Seasonal families, retired couples. I recommend we go check the property's condition first, do a deep cleaning, maybe some minor repairs, and then we will put it on the market. I nodded. It made sense. We set a date to go together, a Tuesday morning. He would pick me up at 9. I mentioned my plans to Mark a week earlier. It was during one of his visits. He was sitting in my living room, checking his phone while I made coffee. "Son, I have decided to rent out the beach condo." He looked up. For a second, I saw something in his eyes, something I could not interpret, surprise, discomfort, but it disappeared so quickly I thought I had imagined it. "That seems fine, Mom. You know what is best." His response was dry, hurried. He left soon after, saying he had an early surgery the next day. I did not give it any more thought. Mark had always been a busy man. He was a doctor, a surgeon, working long hours at the hospital. I was proud of him. What I did not know was that at that moment, while I was innocently telling him my plans, he already knew what he had done. He already knew he had given the keys to my property to his wife. He already knew that Heather and her entire family were settled in there like parasites. And he said nothing to me. Absolutely nothing. Tuesday arrived. I got up early, dressed in comfortable clothes, put the condo documents in my purse, and waited for Vince. He arrived right on time. I got into his car, and during the 2-hour drive to the coast, we talked about trivial things. The weather, the real estate market, his kids. I looked out the window, watching the landscape pass by, feeling a strange mix of nostalgia and hope. It was going to be hard to see that place again, but it was also a necessary step, a step forward. When we arrived, everything looked normal from the outside. The building was the same, the palm trees at the entrance swaying in the breeze. We climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. I took the keys out of my purse, but before I could put them in the lock, the door opened from the inside. And there she was, Heather, my daughter-in-law, with an expression of surprise that quickly morphed into something worse. Arrogance. "Lillian, what a surprise." Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were not. Behind her, I saw movement. People, voices, the smell of food cooking. And then, I understood. We walked in, and what I saw left me breathless. My condo, my sanctuary, the place I had bought with sacrifice and care for years, was unrecognizable. The living room, which I always kept spotless, now had clothes thrown everywhere. There were fast food bags on the coffee table, empty beer cans piled on the floor, stains on the cream-colored sofa I had chosen with such care. The curtains that used to be white were now gray with grime. On the terrace, where my husband and I used to watch sunsets, there was underwear hanging on makeshift lines. Damp towels were draped over the plastic chairs. The smell of dampness and stale food hit me like a slap in the face. And Heather was not alone. On the sofa, with his feet on my coffee table, was her father, Artie. A man in his 60s, prominent belly, wearing a stained t-shirt and holding a can of beer. He glanced at me with indifference, as if I were the intruder. "Who is it?" he asked Heather, without even addressing me. "It is the owner of the condo, Dad. Mark's mom." Artie grunted and turned his attention back to the television. My television, the one I had left there because it did not fit in my city house. In the kitchen was Cheryl, Heather's mother, a skinny woman with hair dyed an artificial reddish color, smoking a cigarette by the open window. The ash was falling directly onto my floor. She was not even using an ashtray. When she saw me, she lifted her chin in a gesture that was meant to be a greeting but felt like a challenge. From one of the bedrooms came Kyle, Heather's younger brother, A guy of about 25 with headphones on, no shirt, his torso covered in cheap tattoos. He walked past me without a word, opened the fridge, grabbed a juice carton, and drank straight from it. Then he left it empty on the counter and went back to his room, slamming the door. I felt the world tilt. Vince, the agent, was beside me, just as paralyzed as I was. Mrs. Lillian, I had no idea. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. The humiliation was so great that words were unnecessary. Heather, I managed to say, and my voice came out weaker than I would have liked. What is going on here? Why are you in my condo? She crossed her arms, tilted her head with that smile that was already making me sick, and answered with chilling calm. Mark gave me the keys 3 months ago. We needed a place. My parents lost their house. My siblings had nowhere to stay. You were not using this condo, Lillian. It was empty, abandoned. So we decided to put it to use. You decided? I repeated, feeling the fury begin to boil inside me. This is my condo, Heather. I did not authorize any of this. Mark has no right to. Mark is your son, she interrupted me with a sharp voice. And I am his wife. We are family. Oh, did you forget? Family helps each other. But of course, you have always been so selfish, so attached to your things. You never even came here. What difference does it make if we are here? The blood rushed to my head. Vince put a hand on my arm, trying to calm me, but I was already shaking with rage. Selfish? I worked 30 years to buy this place. I paid every single payment with my salary. This condo represents my security, my future. You have no right. You are right, Heather said, and her smile grew wider, crueler. We have no right, but here we are. And if you do not like it, well, call the police. She laughed, a high-pitched, mocking laugh that echoed off the walls of my own home. Artie laughed too from the sofa, without taking his eyes off the TV. Cheryl exhaled smoke from her cigarette with a bored expression. Something inside me broke in that moment. It was not just anger. It was something worse. It was the understanding that these people, this family that my son had brought into my life, saw me as a stupid old woman, as someone they could walk all over without consequences. They saw me as weak, disposable, and worst of all, my own son had been complicit in this. I pulled my cell phone from my purse. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. Heather let out another cackle. Are you really going to call the cops? Go ahead. Do it. You are going to look like the bitter mother-in-law who denies her own family a roof over their heads. Can you imagine how that is going to look? Mark is going to have to choose between his cruel mother and his wife. And you know what? He already chose when he gave me those keys. But I did not dial the police. I dialed another number. One I had saved in my phone 3 weeks ago, after a conversation with my neighbor, Martha. She had gone through something similar with her daughter and son-in-law, and she had given me advice that seemed extreme at the time. Lillian, if you are going to rent that condo, protect yourself legally first. I know an excellent lawyer, specialized in family law and real estate. Consult him before you do anything. You just never know. I had followed her advice, almost out of courtesy, never really thinking I would need it. How wrong I was. The phone rang twice. Then, a masculine, serious, and professional voice answered. Martin Hayes' office. Good morning. I activated the speakerphone. The silence in the condo was immediate. Heather stopped smiling. Her face changed. Mr. Hayes, this is Lillian Vargas. We are at the condo we discussed. The situation I feared has been confirmed. There are people living here without my authorization. Understood, Mrs. Vargas. Are they present right now? Yes, my daughter-in-law, her parents, and her siblings. Perfect. Do you have witnesses? Yes, the real estate agent I hired is with me. Mr. Hayes' voice became firmer, more official. Mrs. Vargas, as we discussed in our consultation, you are the sole registered owner of that property. Anyone occupying the premises without your notarized, written consent is committing the crime of trespassing. I have already prepared the necessary documentation. I am, at this moment, sending an immediate eviction order to the local police department. They should arrive in less than 30 minutes. The color drained from Heather's face. She went white, completely white. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Artie sat up on the sofa, a look of panic on his face. Cheryl dropped her cigarette on the floor. Furthermore, Mr. Hayes continued, with that devastating calm only experienced lawyers have, I have sent a legal notice to your son, Mark, informing him that he is being included as an accomplice in a case of unlawful entry. He provided keys to a property that does not belong to him without the owner's authorization. That has serious legal consequences. He could face civil and possibly criminal charges. All expenses generated by this process, including legal fees, cleaning, repairs, and compensation for unauthorized use, will be billed directly to him. Heather finally found her voice. Wait, you do not understand, Mark told me. What your husband told you is irrelevant, the lawyer interrupted. He is not the owner. He cannot authorize anything, and you have no contract, no documents, no legal right to be there. Mrs. Vargas, I recommend you exit the apartment right now, along with your witness, and wait outside for the police to arrive. Do not touch anything. Do not move anything. Everything must be documented exactly as it is for the official report. I hung up the phone. The silence in the condo was so thick I could feel it on my skin. I looked Heather directly in the eyes. I was not trembling anymore. I no longer felt fear or humiliation. I felt something cold, something hard, something that had been dormant inside me for too long. You have 30 minutes to pack your things, I said in a calm voice. After that, the police will remove you. And believe me, Heather, it is not going to be pretty. Heather took a step back, as if my words had physically pushed her. Her mouth opened and closed without making a sound. For the first time since I had known her, I saw her without that mask of arrogant certainty, and what was underneath was pathetic, pure fear. Lillian, wait, we can talk about this. It does not have to go this far. I did not know. You did not know what? I interrupted her, and my voice sounded harder than I expected, as if it belonged to someone else, a version of me I had kept locked away for too long. That you did not know it was illegal to move into someone else's property? That you did not know this is called trespassing? Or that you did not know I was not as stupid as you thought? Artie got up from the sofa awkwardly, still holding the beer can. Hey, take it easy, old lady. It is not that big a deal. We are family. Mark told us it was no problem, that you never even came here. What did you expect us to do? Live on the street? His tone was defensive, but there was something else, something desperate in his eyes. This man was used to living off others, to justifying his parasitic nature with cheap excuses. And now he was facing someone who was not going to back down. What you do with your lives is not my problem, I replied, not breaking my gaze. But this, I gestured around, taking in the entire destroyed condo. This is my problem. This is my property, my work, my future. And you came in here like thieves. We are not thieves, Cheryl yelled from the kitchen, putting out her cigarette on the rim of my sink. I winced, seeing the black burn mark it left on the porcelain. Your son invited us. He told us we could stay as long as we needed. If anyone is at fault here, it is him, not us. I felt a pang in my chest. She was right about one thing. Mark was guilty. My son, the man I raised with values and principles, had betrayed me in the most cowardly way possible, not by stealing from me directly, but by allowing others to do it, handing over the keys to my property as if they were his, lying by omission. But that pain would have to wait. Right now, I needed to be strong. Mark will answer for what he did, I said, and every word cost me a piece of my soul. But so will you. Pack your things. Now. Vince, who had remained silent this whole time, approached me. Mrs. Lillian, I think it is best we wait outside, as the lawyer suggested. This situation could get ugly. He was right. I could feel the tension building in the air. Artie was squeezing the beer can so hard it was buckling. Cheryl was looking toward the bedroom door where her children were, as if calculating her options. But before I could move, Brandy, Heather's older sister, came out of one of the bedrooms. She was a woman in her 30s, with long, unkempt hair, dressed in sweatpants and an old t-shirt. She was carrying a baby that could not be more than 6 months old, wrapped in a green blanket. The child was crying with that high-pitched wail that pierces your eardrums. What is going on? Brandy asked in a sleepy voice, rocking the baby. Why is everyone yelling? I just got Mason to sleep. The silence that followed was different because now there was a child in the middle of all this, and Heather knew it. I saw how her expression changed, how she found a new weapon. She walked over to her sister, put a hand on her shoulder, and looked at me with what was meant to be a plea, but was pure manipulation. Lillian, please. Look, there is a baby here. Are you really going to make the police throw a baby out on the street? What kind of person does that? I felt the walls closing in on me. This was exactly what she wanted, to turn me into the villain, to use an innocent child as a shield, to make any action I took seem cruel, disproportionate, inhumane. And the worst part is, it was working. Because I did care about that baby. I cared about any child. But I also knew that giving in now meant losing everything. The baby has parents, I said, and my voice came out colder than I intended. And those parents are responsible for finding him a roof, not me. You decided to come here without permission, to occupy my property, to destroy my things. The consequences of those decisions are yours, not mine. Brandy looked at me with pure hatred. You are a monster, a selfish, bitter old woman. No wonder your husband died, just to get away from you. Those words pierced me like broken glass. Vince tensed beside me, ready to intervene. But I held up a hand, stopping him. I was not going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break down. I was not going to cry in front of them. Not now. You can insult me all you want, I answered, my voice trembling but firm. It does not change anything. You have, I checked my watch, 25 minutes before the police arrive. Use them well. Kyle finally came out of his room, without the headphones now, a half-filled backpack in his hand. He looked scared, younger than he was. Mom, what do we do? He asked Cheryl. She lit another cigarette with shaky hands. Call Mark. He got his family into this mess. He can get us out. Heather already had her phone in her hand. She dialed with trembling fingers. She waited, once, twice, 3 times. He is not answering, she said, her voice growing more desperate. Mark, pick up, please. You have to come. Your mom is here and says she is going to call the police, that they are going to kick us out. Mark, please. She left a voicemail and hung up. She dialed again. Nothing. I knew why he was not answering. Mr. Hayes had said they sent him a legal notification. Mark was probably in a panic, consulting his own lawyers, trying to understand what mess he had gotten himself into. Or maybe he was just a coward who did not want to face the consequences of his actions. Probably both. He is not going to answer, I said. And even if he did, he could not do anything. The eviction order is already in process. This is over, Heather. She looked at me with eyes full of tears. But they were not tears of regret. They were tears of impotent rage. You are going to regret this. Mark will never forgive you. You are going to lose your son over a stupid condo. If I lose my son for defending what is mine, I replied, and I felt each word like a stone in my throat, then I already lost him a long time ago. Vince touched my arm gently. Mrs. Lillian, please, let us go outside. The police should not find us in here. He was right. I needed to get out of there before the situation exploded. But before I left, I wanted to make one thing clear. I turned to all of them. That family of parasites that had invaded my space, my peace, my life. I want you to know something. I am not doing this for revenge. I am not doing this because I hate you. I am doing this because I am 70 years old, and I do not have time left to let people walk all over me. I worked my entire life to have something of my own. Something secure, something to protect me in my old age. And you came in here as if none of that mattered, as if I did not matter. Artie dropped the beer can on the floor. The liquid spilled onto my rug. This is Mark's fault, he muttered. He said there would be no problems, that his mom never came here, that we could stay for months, maybe years. Well, Mark lied, I said simply. And now you are all going to pay for believing him. I walked out of the condo with Vince behind me. I closed the door but did not lock it. There was no point. The police would need to get in. We walked down the stairs in silence. My legs were shaking with every step. When we reached the building's lobby, I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath. Mrs. Lillian, are you okay? Vince asked, genuine concern in his voice. Do you need to sit down? Water? I shook my head. I am fine. I need a moment. But I was not fine. I felt as if I had just run a marathon. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands were shaking, and worst of all was the pain in my chest. That pain that was not physical but emotional. The pain of knowing my son had betrayed me in a way I never thought possible. We waited outside the building. Vince offered to let me sit in his car, but I preferred to stand. I needed to feel the ground beneath my feet. I needed the salty air from the ocean on my face to remind me that this was real, that it was not a nightmare I could wake up from. The morning sun was shining with an almost offensive brightness. Everything around us seemed normal. Tourists were walking down the street with towels and umbrellas. Children were running and laughing toward the beach. Street vendors were calling out, selling ice cream and cold drinks. Life was going on while my world was falling apart. How long have you known your daughter-in-law? Vince asked after a long silence. His voice was gentle, as if he was afraid any word might break me. 3 years, I replied, looking up at the 3rd floor where my condo was, where that family still was, probably packing their things with anger and resentment. Mark met her at the hospital where he works. She was a receptionist. At first, she seemed sweet, polite. When he introduced her to me, I thought she was perfect for him. How wrong I was. I remembered that day perfectly. Mark had come to my house with her, both of them holding hands, smiling like teenagers in love. Heather was wearing a coral-colored dress, flat shoes, her hair in a ponytail. She greeted me with a hug, brought me flowers, told me she had heard so much about me. Mark talks about you all the time, Mrs. Lillian. He says you are the strongest woman he knows. I had melted at those words. What a fool I was. There are always signs, Vince continued, more to himself than to me. In my line of work, I have seen many cases of families taking advantage of older adults. It always starts the same. With sweet words, with promises, by making themselves indispensable. And when they have enough trust, they show their true colors. He was right. The signs had been there from the beginning, but I had chosen not to see them. Or maybe I did not want to see them, because it meant accepting that my son had chosen poorly, that the family he was building was toxic. The first sign was at the engagement dinner. We were at a small restaurant, just the 3 of us and Heather's parents. Artie and Cheryl arrived late, loud, smelling of alcohol. They sat down and started ordering expensive dishes without even looking at the menu, as if someone else was going to pay. And someone did. Mark pulled out his card without a second thought. When I tried to contribute, Heather stopped me with a smile. No, Mrs. Lillian, Mark insists. He wants to treat us. But I saw how her parents exchanged a look of satisfaction, like predators who had just found easy prey. The second sign was when Mark started canceling our lunches. We used to see each other every Sunday. It was our tradition since he was a boy. I would cook his favorite meal. We would talk about the week, his patients, about life. But after he got married, the excuses started. Mom, I am sorry, Heather is not feeling well. Mom, we have plans with her family. Mom, some other day, okay? Sundays became occasional, then rare, then non-existent. The third sign was when I needed help fixing a leak in my house. I called Mark on a Tuesday night. He had always been good with that stuff. His father had taught him. Son, I have an emergency. Water is leaking from the bathroom ceiling and I do not know what to do. There was a long pause. Then I heard Heather's voice in the background, whispering something I could not make out. Mom, I am really busy. Why do not you just call a plumber? But I thought you. I have surgeries early tomorrow. I cannot come over right now. He hung up. I called a plumber who charged me $200 for something Mark could have fixed in 20 minutes. I should have seen it. I should have confronted Mark, set boundaries, said something. But I was afraid of losing him completely, afraid of becoming that unbearable mother-in-law who ruins marriages. So I stayed quiet, swallowing the pain, telling myself things would get better with time. And while I was swallowing my pride, they were getting bolder. The sound of sirens pulled me from my thoughts. 2 police patrol cars turned the corner and parked in front of the building. 4 officers got out, 2 men and 2 women, all with serious, professional expressions. One of them, a man in his 40s with a salt and pepper mustache, approached us. "Mrs. Lillian Vargas?" I nodded. "I am Officer Mendoza. We received the order from Mr. Martin Hayes. Can you confirm that there are individuals occupying your property without authorization?" "Yes, officer. My daughter-in-law, her parents, and her siblings. They are in condo 302. I took the property documents out of my purse and handed them to him. He reviewed them quickly, nodded, and passed them to one of his partners." "How long have they been here?" "According to them, 3 months. I only found out today." Officer Mendoza made a note in his pad. "Is there any rental contract? Any verbal agreement that you authorized?" "Nothing. My son gave them the keys without my consent. I came here today to prepare the condo to be rented and found them living here." "Understood. This is a clear case of trespassing. We will proceed with the immediate eviction." He gestured to the other officers, and they all headed into the building. Vince and I followed, keeping a safe distance. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would explode. This was real. This was happening. There was no turning back. When they reached the 3rd floor, Officer Mendoza knocked firmly on the door. "Police! Open the door!" There was silence. Then muffled voices, hurried movement. The door opened slowly. Heather was on the other side, her eyes red and swollen. She had been crying. "Officers, thank God you are here. Can you please explain to this lady that—" "Ma'am," Officer Mendoza interrupted her with a firm voice. "We have an eviction order. You and everyone else on this property must leave immediately. You may take your personal belongings, but you must vacate the premises now." "But you do not understand. My brother-in-law, her son, he gave us permission. We have a right to be here." "You have no right," the female officer replied, a younger woman in her 30s with a stern expression. "This property is registered solely in the name of Mrs. Lillian Vargas. No other person has the authority to permit occupancy. What you have done is called trespassing. It is a crime." Artie appeared behind Heather, 2 suitcases in his hands. He looked defeated, small, nothing like the arrogant man I had seen sitting on my sofa less than an hour ago. "We are already packing, officer. We do not want any trouble. We are leaving." Cheryl came out next, carrying plastic bags full of clothes. She did not look at me. Kyle had his backpack and a shoebox. Brandy came out last, the baby still in her arms, crying softly. The officers supervised as they moved their things out. They did not have much. Clothes, some electronics, bags of food. They piled it all in the building's hallway, creating a messy mountain of cheap belongings. I stood next to Vince, watching the scene as if it were happening to someone else. Part of me felt satisfaction, justice. But another part, a part I did not want to acknowledge, felt something like guilt. Because yes, there was a baby crying. Because yes, these people now had nowhere to go. But I also knew it was not my responsibility. They could not steal my future and expect me to feel sorry for them. When they finished moving everything out, Officer Mendoza did an inventory of the condo's condition. He went in with a camera, taking pictures of every room. The damage was worse than I had initially seen. There were cigarette burns on the furniture, damp stains on the walls, a broken window pane in the kitchen, the floor scratched in several places. Every photo was evidence. Every photo was money it would cost to repair. "Mrs. Vargas, I need you to sign this report," the officer said after he finished. He handed me a tablet with a digital form. I read it quickly. It was an official statement confirming the state of the condo, the damages found, and the people who were evicted. I signed with a shaky hand. "This report will be sent to Mr. Hayes. He will use it for the legal process against the responsible parties." "Thank you, officer." Heather was sitting on the hallway floor, surrounded by suitcases and bags, her head in her hands. Her parents and siblings were a few feet away, smoking cigarettes, muttering among themselves. No one looked at me. It was as if I were invisible. As if, after all this, they still believed they were the victims. Officer Mendoza handed me the keys. "The condo is back in your custody. I recommend you change the locks as soon as possible. And if these people try to return, call us immediately." "I will. Thank you." The officers left. Vince stayed with me. The hallway was silent except for the soft crying of the baby. I stood in front of my condo door, keys in hand, unable to move. Vince was by my side, waiting quietly. A few feet away, Heather was still sitting on the floor, surrounded by her things. She finally lifted her head and looked at me. Her eyes were red, swollen, and filled with a hatred so pure it made me take a step back. "I hope you are happy," she said in a hoarse voice. "You just put your own family out on the street, your grandson out on the street." She pointed to the baby Brandy was holding. "That is not my grandson," I replied calmly, though inside I felt something breaking. "That is your sister's son. I have no obligation to him. But you do have an obligation to Mark. He is your son, and when he finds out what you did, how you treated his family, he will never forgive you. You are going to die alone, Lillian. Completely alone." Her words were meant to hurt, and they did. But I was not going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me cry. If Mark abandons me for defending what is mine, then he is not the son I thought I raised. I turned around and went into the condo, closing the door behind me. Vince came in with me. The silence inside was heavy, dense. The smell of cigarettes and stale food still hung in the air. I walked slowly through the living room, seeing the damage in more detail now that we were alone. The cream-colored sofa had dark stains that looked like coffee or wine. The coffee table had water rings, white circles where heat had ruined the varnish. The curtains felt greasy to the touch. In the kitchen, the sink was full of dirty dishes piled up carelessly. Flies were buzzing around. I opened the refrigerator and the smell hit me like a punch. Rotten food, open containers with mold, expired milk. I closed it immediately, feeling nauseous. "Mrs. Lillian," Vince said softly, "this is going to cost a lot of money to fix. Deep cleaning, fumigation, repairs, painting. We are easily talking several $1,000s. I knew. Of course I knew. Mr. Hayes said all expenses would be billed to Mark. My voice sounded strange, distant, as if it belonged to someone else. "Yes, but that could take months. In the meantime, the condo cannot be rented in this condition." He was right. I had come here thinking that in a few weeks I would be generating income. Now I realized it would be months before I saw a single dollar. And in the meantime, the expenses would keep piling up. The homeowners association, water, electricity, gas. Everything kept running even if the place was empty. I sat down on the ruined sofa, not caring about the stains. Suddenly, I felt a weariness so profound I could barely keep my eyes open. 70 years old, a whole life of working, and here I was, having to fight for what was mine, having to spend money I did not have to repair damage I did not cause. "Are you all right?" Vince asked, sitting beside me carefully. "Do you want me to call someone? Do you have family nearby?" "I do not have anyone," I answered, and saying it out loud, I realized how true it was. My husband is dead. My son betrayed me. I do not have siblings. My friends are few, and they are all dealing with their own problems. I am alone, Vince, completely alone. I felt the tears finally, hot and heavy, rolling down my cheeks. I did not try to stop them. I was too tired to keep being strong. Vince said nothing. He just took a clean handkerchief from his pocket and offered it to me. I dried my face, took a deep breath, tried to pull myself together. "I am sorry. I should not be crying. You are a professional, not my therapist. Mrs. Lillian, I am a human being before I am a professional. And what just happened is horrible. You have every right to cry." His kindness disarmed me more than any of Heather's insults. We sat in silence for several minutes. Outside, I heard voices rising, Artie and Cheryl arguing about where they were going to go. Then I heard footsteps going down the stairs, the sound of suitcases being dragged, a door slamming. Silence again. They were gone. They were really gone. And I had won. So why did it feel like a defeat? My phone rang. I pulled it from my purse and saw the name on the screen. Mark. My heart skipped a beat. Part of me wanted to answer immediately, to hear his voice, to hear an apology, to hear that this had all been a terrible misunderstanding. But another part, the part that had just learned to set boundaries, Knew I could not answer yet. Not like this. Not while I was still vulnerable. I declined the call. Immediately, text messages started coming in, one after another, filling my screen. "Mom, pick up, please. We need to talk." Heather called me crying. "What did you do? You called the cops? Seriously? I cannot believe you went that far. They were my family. Your family." Every message was like a blow. But the one that hurt the most was the last one. "Mom, you disappointed me. I thought you were a better person." I read that message 3 times. Each time, I felt something inside me harden just a little bit more. He disappointed me. He betrayed me. He gave away the keys to my property without my permission. He allowed his in-laws to disrespect me. And now he was telling me I had disappointed him. The audacity. The absolute audacity. I typed a reply. I erased it. I typed another. I erased that one too. Finally, I wrote something simple, direct, devoid of emotion. "Mark, we will see each other tomorrow at my house. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Bring Heather if you want. We have a lot to talk about." I sent the message and turned off the phone. I did not want to see his reply. "Not yet." "Was that your son?" Vince asked. I nodded. "He wants to talk. He is upset I called the police." "He is upset? After what he did, he has the nerve to be upset?" Vince sounded genuinely indignant. "Mrs. Lillian, forgive me for overstepping, but your son is completely in the wrong. What he did is illegal. Period. There is no justification. I know. And he is going to know it, too, when we talk tomorrow." I stood up from the sofa with effort. My knees protested. My back ached. My whole body ached. "Vince, I think that is enough for today. Can you take me back to the city?" "Of course. But first, let me take a few more pictures of the condo for my files. I am going to need to get quotes for cleaning and repairs." "Do what you have to do." While he took pictures with his phone, I walked to the terrace. The door was ajar. I pushed it open all the way and stepped out. The ocean was there, immense and calm, shining under the midday sunday. The waves were breaking gently against the sand. There were children building sandcastles, couples walking hand in hand, vendors selling their goods. Life went on. It always went on. I remembered the afternoons I spent here with my husband. He would sit in that white plastic chair, I in the other, and we would just sit in silence, watching the horizon. We did not need words. The company was enough. "I miss you," I whispered to the wind. "You do not know how much I miss you, and you do not know how much I need you to tell me I did the right thing." But there was no answer, only the sound of the waves and the distant cry of the seagulls. The drive back to the city was silent. Vince tried to make conversation a couple of times, asking about my plans, about how I was feeling, but my answers were short, monosyllabic. It was not rudeness. I just did not have the energy for any more words. My mind was elsewhere, replaying the scene at the condo over and over, Heather's face when she realized she had lost, Mark's text messages accusing me of being a bad person. Every thought was another weight on my shoulders. When we got to my house, Vince insisted on walking me to the door. "Mrs. Lillian, I am going to work on those quotes this afternoon. I will send you a full report tomorrow with the estimated costs for repairs and cleaning. I am also going to contact a locksmith to get those locks changed as soon as possible. Thank you, Vince, for everything. Not just for your work, but for being there today. I do not know what I would have done alone." He smiled warmly. "That is what we are here for. Take care of yourself. And if you need anything at all, do not hesitate to call." I went into my house and locked the door. The silence enveloped me like a heavy blanket. Everything was exactly as I had left it that morning. My coffee mug in the sink, the newspaper folded on the table, my slippers by the sofa. But I was not the same person who had left here hours ago. Something had changed. Something fundamental had broken and reformed inside me. I took off my shoes, poured myself a glass of water, and sat in my favorite chair by the window. Outside, the afternoon was moving along slowly. Neighbors were watering their lawns. Kids were playing in the street. A dog was barking in the distance. All so normal. All so separate from the storm I had just weathered. I turned on my phone. I had 17 messages, all from Mark. I did not read them. I also had 3 missed calls from an unknown number. Probably Heather, using someone else's phone. I blocked the number. But there was one message that did catch my attention. It was from Mr. Martin Hayes. Mrs. Vargas, the eviction was executed successfully, as reported by the police. First thing tomorrow, I will send you the documents for the legal process against your son, Mark. I also need you to stop by my office this week to sign some additional papers. We will be in touch. I read the message twice. Legal process against my son. Those words twisted my stomach. Yes, Mark had done something terrible. Yes, he deserved consequences. But seeing it written like that, so official, so final, made me feel as if I were digging the grave of our relationship with my own hands. Was there another option? Could I have handled it differently? The doubts started to creep into my mind like poisonous vines. Maybe I should have talked to Mark first. Maybe I should have given him a chance to explain, to fix things, to get that family out of my condo on his own. But then I remembered Heather's face, laughing at me. I remembered her words, "If you do not like it, call the police." I remembered the dirty dishes, the stains on my furniture, the cigarette put out in my sink. I remembered that Mark had lied to me for 3 months. 3 months, knowing his in-laws were destroying my property, and he said nothing. He did not protect me. He chose to protect them. No, I had not acted rashly. I had acted as I had to. I had defended what was mine. And if that meant confronting my son, then so be it. I got up from the chair with renewed determination and walked to my bedroom. I needed to rest. Tomorrow would be a long day. Tomorrow, I would have the conversation that would change everything forever. I slept badly that night. I dreamed of my husband. In the dream, we were at the beach condo, but not as it was now. As it was before, clean and full of light. He was sitting on the terrace, reading his book, and I was bringing him coffee. Did I do the right thing? I asked him in the dream. He looked up, smiled at me with that smile that always calmed me, and said, "You were always stronger than you thought." I woke up with tears on my cheeks. The next morning, I got up early despite my exhaustion. I showered, got dressed in comfortable but presentable clothes, and ate a small breakfast I was not hungry for. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the doorbell rang. It was the locksmith Vince had sent, a young, efficient man who changed the condo's locks using the keys I had brought back. He charged me $150, money I did not have, but which was necessary to spend. I paid him and he left. At 10, Vince's report arrived by email. I opened it on my old computer. It was a 5-page document with photos, detailed descriptions of the damage, and quotes from different companies. Deep cleaning, $500. Fumigation, $300. Furniture repair, $800. Painting walls, $1,200. Replacement of damaged appliances, $900. Total, $3,700. Almost $4,000. I felt the air leave my lungs. That amount represented more than half of my savings, and that was not even counting the lawyer's fees. How was I going to pay for all this? Mr. Hayes had said the costs would be billed to Mark. But how long would that process take? Months? Years? And in the meantime, what? I would be out of savings? I would go into debt? Panic began to take hold of me. Maybe I had been too drastic. Maybe I should have negotiated with Heather, given them a deadline to leave voluntarily, avoided the legal process. But then I stopped myself. I took a deep breath. No. That was exactly the kind of thinking that had led to me being walked all over for years. The fear of consequences, the fear of conflict, the fear of looking bad. I could not afford that luxury anymore. I called Mr. Hayes. He answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Vargas, good morning. How are you?" "Mr. Hayes, I just received the damage report. It is almost $4,000. How long will it take to recover that money from Mark?" There was a pause. "Mrs. Vargas, I have to be honest with you. These processes are slow. First, we have to file the lawsuit, wait for him to respond, go to mediation, and if there is no agreement, go to court. We are talking 6 months minimum, probably closer to a year. A year. I felt my knees go weak. And your fees. My fee is $2,500 for the entire process, but I can offer you a payment plan if you need it. Another $2,500. Almost $10,000 in total. My entire savings, everything I had. Mr. Hayes, I need to think about this. I understand completely. Take your time, but I recommend you do not delay the decision too long. The more time that passes, the harder it will be to prove the damages and claim compensation. I hung up the phone and stared at the wall. This was worse than I had imagined. I had won the battle, but I was losing the war. I had my condo back, yes, but now I had no money to fix it. And without fixing it, I could not rent it. And without renting it, I did not have the income I needed. It was a vicious cycle that was suffocating me. The clock showed 12 o'clock noon. In 3 hours, Mark would arrive, and we would have the most difficult conversation of our lives. I made myself some tea, sat in the living room, and waited. The minutes passed with torturous slowness. Every noise from the street made me jump. Every time I looked at the clock, only 5 minutes had passed. Finally, at exactly 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I heard a car park in front of my house. I looked out the window. It was Mark's car, a gray sedan I had helped him buy when he started at the hospital. He got out. Alone. Heather was not with him. I do not know if I felt relief or disappointment. Part of me wanted to confront her face to face, to tell her everything I thought without police or witnesses. But another part knew it was better this way. This conversation needed to be between mother and son. No one else. He walked to the door with slow, heavy steps. Even from the window, I could see he had not slept. He had deep, dark circles under his eyes. His hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled. He looked 10 years older than the last time I had seen him. He rang the doorbell. I took a deep breath, smoothed my green dress, and opened the door. "Hi, Mom." His voice was flat, careful, as if he were talking to a stranger. "Mark, come in." I stepped aside. He walked in without looking me in the eye. He stood in the middle of the living room, hands in his pockets, jaw tight. The silence between us was so thick you could cut it. "Do you want some coffee?" I asked, more out of habit than hospitality. "No, thanks." I did not come for coffee. I came to talk about what you did yesterday. "What I did?" I repeated his words slowly, savoring the irony. "Interesting that you start there. Mom, you called the police. You threw Heather's family out on the street. There was a baby, Mom. A baby." His voice rose, the contained fury beginning to leak out. "That baby has parents. And those parents invaded my property without my permission. Or did you forget that part? I gave them the keys." He said it as if that justified everything, as if that simple sentence erased everything else. "You do not own that condo, Mark. I am the owner. Me alone. You had no right to give away those keys. You are my mother. I thought you would understand. I thought you had some compassion." Compassion? I felt the rage building in my chest. "You are talking to me about compassion? Mark, for 3 months you let those people live in my condo without saying a word to me. 3 months, lying to my face every time we spoke. I did not lie. I just did not tell you. That is exactly the same thing." My voice was shaking now. "You knew I was planning to rent that place. You knew I needed it to survive. And still, you allowed your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, and your siblings-in-law to use it as a free hotel. Worse than that, they destroyed it. Did you see the pictures the agent sent? Did you see the state they left my condo in?" Mark finally looked me in the eyes. And what I saw there broke my heart. It was not regret. It was not guilt. It was pure resentment. "You have always been the same, Mom. Always money first. Always your things. Never family." "Family?" I let out a bitter laugh that I did not even recognize as my own. "Mark, I worked my entire life to give you a family. To give you an education, food, a roof over your head. Your father and I sacrificed so you could become a doctor. And now you tell me I never cared about family? I mean my family now. Heather and me. Her parents needed help. Her brother was out of work. Her sister has a baby and nowhere to live. What did you want me to do? Turn my back on them? I wanted you to ask me first. I wanted you to respect my property. I wanted you to act like the son I raised, not like a stranger who betrays me. Betrayal. He spat the word out like it was poison. You have gotten so dramatic in your old age. That hurt. It hurt more than I expected. Mark, they destroyed my condo. There are stains, burns, broken things. Fixing it all is going to cost almost $4,000. Money I do not have. Money that is all I have left in savings. Then do not fix it. Sell it. You are too old to be managing properties anyway. I stared at him, unable to believe what I had just heard. This man, this stranger with my son's face, had just told me to sell the last piece of security I had. The condo I bought with my husband, with our sweat, with our dreams. I am not selling. Then stop complaining. He turned around, ready to leave. Wait. My voice was louder than I intended. We are not done. I am done, Mom. I am not going to stand here and listen to you talk trash about Heather and her family. We are not done because I have not told you what happens now. That stopped him. He turned around slowly. What happens now? The lawyer I hired is preparing a lawsuit against you. For handing over keys to a property that is not yours, for enabling trespassing, for being an accomplice to property damage. All the repair costs, the cleaning, the legal fees, everything will be billed to you. The color drained from his face. You cannot be serious. I have never been more serious in my life. Mom, I am your son, and I am your mother. The mother you respected so little that you gave away her property as if it were yours. This is insane. You cannot sue me. I am your only family. You chose to stop acting like family when you betrayed me. Now, I am choosing to defend myself. Mark pulled out his phone. He started dialing a number. I am going to talk to a lawyer. This is not going to stand. Go ahead. Talk to all the lawyers you want. It does not change the facts. You committed a crime, and you are going to pay for it. He finished dialing. He put the phone to his ear. He waited. No one answered. He dialed another number. Same result. His desperation was almost palpable. Do you know what the saddest part of all this is? I said, and my voice was calmer now, colder. It is that I was still willing to forgive you. If you had come here today with humility, with a real apology, with a plan to make up for the damage, maybe we could have found a solution. But you came with arrogance, with accusations, trying to make me feel guilty for defending what is mine. And that tells me everything I need to know about who you are now, who I am now. His voice trembled with rage. I am someone who chose his wife over a controlling, bitter mother. That is who I am. Then go. Go be with your wife. Live happily in the house you bought with your doctor's salary. But do not ever come near my property again. Do not ever act like you have any right to what is mine. And get ready to pay back every single cent you owe me. I am leaving. And I am not coming back. Is that what you want? To lose your only son? He stepped toward me, his face inches from mine. I could see the tears welling in his eyes. But I also saw something else. Fear. He was finally understanding that this was real, that the consequences were real. I do not want to lose you, Mark. But I am not going to sacrifice my dignity and my future to keep you close. If you leave, it will be your choice, not mine. We stood like that, staring at each other. Two strangers who were once everything to one another. Finally, he stepped back, wiped his eyes angrily, and walked to the door. He opened it but stopped in the threshold. You are going to regret this. Maybe, but I would regret not doing it even more. He left without looking back. I heard his car engine start, the sound of the tires on the pavement, the silence he left behind. I stood in front of the closed door for several minutes, unable to move, waiting. Waiting for what? For him to come back? To ring the bell and say he was sorry? But nothing happened. Just the silence of my empty house and the crushing weight of what had just happened. I had confronted my son. I had threatened him with a lawsuit. And he had left, calling me bitter and controlling. Was that what I was? A bitter old woman, unable to forgive? I walked to my bedroom like an automaton. I sat on the bed, the same bed where my husband died 3 years ago, and I let the tears finally flow, uncontrolled. I cried for everything. For the destroyed condo, for the money I did not have, for the relationship with my son that had just shattered into pieces. But most of all, I cried for the betrayal, because it hurts when you are betrayed, but it hurts infinitely more when it is done by the person you love the most. The following days were a fog of procedures and paperwork. Mr. Hayes called me into his office to sign the lawsuit against Mark. It was a 22-page document full of legal terms I barely understood. "Mrs. Vargas, are you absolutely sure you want to proceed?" he asked before I signed. "You can still back out. We can try private mediation first, without involving the courts." I held the pen over the paper, my hand shaking. "If I do not proceed, what happens?" I asked. "You would have to pay for all the damages yourself. And Mark would face no consequences for what he did. And if I do proceed, he will have a legal case against him. It could affect his medical license depending on the verdict. It could create a permanent rupture in your relationship, but it will also set a clear precedent that your properties are protected and that no one, not even family, can abuse them." I closed my eyes. I thought of Mark as a little boy, playing in the yard. I thought of his medical school graduation, the pride I felt that day. I thought of his wedding, dancing with him, thinking he had found happiness. And then I thought of Heather, laughing in my face. I thought of the dirty dishes, the burns on my furniture, the 3 months of lies. I thought of the $4,000 I needed and did not have. I opened my eyes and signed. 2 weeks later, Mark received the official notice. I knew because Heather called me from a number I did not have blocked, screaming insults and threats. "Are you happy now, you miserable old woman? Happy you ruined your own son's life? I hope you rot alone." I hung up without responding. I blocked that number too. Then came the silence. Weeks without hearing anything from Mark. No texts. No calls. Nothing. It was as if he had died. And, in a way, the son I knew had died. In the meantime, I had to make hard decisions about the condo. I did not have the $4,000 to fix it completely, but I could not leave it as it was, so I prioritized. I hired a deep cleaning for $300 instead of $500, choosing a smaller company, basic fumigation for $250, painting only the most damaged walls for $800, total $1,350. I paid with my credit card, going into debt for the first time in years. The condo looked better, though not perfect. The furniture was still stained. Some appliances did not work well, but at least it was clean and habitable. Vince helped me post the ad. Beachfront condo, 2 bedrooms, ocean view. $1,000 a month. It was less than I could have asked for if it were in optimal condition. But I needed tenants. Fast. I needed that income desperately. 3 weeks passed with no response. Every day I checked my email, my phone, waiting, nothing. The high season for rentals was ending. Soon it would be winter, and no one would want a beach condo. The panic grew inside me like a poisonous weed. What if I could not find tenants? What if the condo sat empty for months? How would I pay the credit card? How would I survive? One night, sitting in my kitchen with bills spread across the table, I ran the numbers for the umpteenth time. Pension, $900. Basic expenses, $700. Medications, $200. Credit card, $100 minimum monthly payment. Total, $1,200 in expenses against $900 in income. Deficit, $300 a month. Savings remaining, $2,000. Time before I ran out of money, 6 months, maybe 7. Tears fell onto the papers, smudging the numbers with running ink. I had done the right thing. I was sure I had done the right thing. So why did it feel like I was losing? Why did I go to bed every night with this weight on my chest that would not let me breathe? My phone rang. It was an unknown number. I hesitated before answering. Lillian Vargas speaking. It was a female voice, young, polite. "Yes, this is she. My name is Andrea Morales. I saw your ad for the condo on the coast. I was wondering if it is still available." My heart leaped. Yes, it is available. When would you like to see it? Is tomorrow okay? I am a teacher. I just got a job at a school near the beach and I need to move soon. Tomorrow is perfect. What time works for you? 10 o'clock in the morning? Perfect. I will text you the address. I hung up, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. The next day, I got up early. I drove to the condo. I got there an hour early to make sure everything was presentable. I opened the windows to let the sea air in, arranged the furniture as best I could, and hid the most obvious stains with pillows and throws. At exactly 10 o'clock in the morning, the bell rang. It was a woman in her 30s, dark hair in a ponytail, wearing jeans and a simple blouse, with a kind smile. "Mrs. Vargas? A pleasure. I am Andrea." We shook hands. I showed her the entire condo, pointing out the rooms, the kitchen, the terrace. She asked intelligent questions about utilities, neighbors, transportation. I did not mention anything about what had happened. It was not her problem. When we finished the tour, we sat on the terrace. "I love it," she said, looking at the ocean. "It is perfect for me. When could I move in?" "Whenever you like. I just need the first month, a security deposit, and references." "Perfect. I can give you all of that today. Would you be open to me moving in this weekend?" I could not believe it. After weeks of anguish, in less than an hour, I had found a tenant. Of course. This weekend is perfect. We signed a temporary contract I had prepared with Mr. Hayes's help. She gave me a check for $2,000, first month and deposit. I held it in my hands like it was a treasure. That night, I slept better than I had in months. It did not solve everything. I still had debt. I still faced the legal process with Mark. I still did not know if our relationship could be repaired. But I had something. I had income. I had dignity. I had the certainty that I had defended what was mine, and I had survived. Maybe that was enough for now. 6 months passed. 6 months of absolute silence from Mark. No messages, no calls, nothing. It was as if my son had been erased from existence. At first, I checked my phone obsessively, waiting to see his name on the screen. After a month, I stopped waiting. After 3 months, it stopped hurting as much. After 6 months, I began to accept that maybe this was how our story ended. No reconciliation, no closure, just a cold, permanent silence. The legal process moved slowly, just as Mr. Hayes had warned. There were hearings, depositions, more paperwork. Mark hired a lawyer who tried to argue that he had acted in good faith, that he believed he had implicit permission as my son. But the facts were clear. He had given away keys to a property that did not belong to him. He had allowed third parties to occupy and damage it. There was no legal basis for his defense. At the final hearing, which was 2 weeks ago, the judge ruled in my favor. Mark would have to pay $3,700 for damages, plus $2,500 for my lawyer's fees, plus $1,200 in court costs. Total, $7,400. He had 6 months to pay or face wage garnishment. When the judge gave the verdict, I looked over to where Mark was sitting with his lawyer. I expected to see him furious, resentful. Instead, he just looked defeated. Small, old. Our eyes met for a second. In his, I saw something I had not seen in all these months. Regret. But he did not approach me after the hearing. He left the courtroom quickly with his lawyer, without looking back. I sat in the empty courtroom for a long time, feeling like I had won the battle but wondering if I had lost something more important in the process. Mr. Hayes put a hand on my shoulder. "Mrs. Vargas, you did the right thing." I never doubted it. I wanted to believe him. I really did. Andrea turned out to be the perfect tenant. She paid on time. She kept the condo clean. She never caused any problems. The $1,000 a month she gave me was exactly what I needed to survive with dignity. I was not living in luxury, but I was not living with the constant anxiety of not knowing if I could pay the next month's bills. There was stability. There was peace. I had learned to live with less, and paradoxically, I felt richer than before. My friends in the neighborhood, the few I had, would ask about Mark. "Have you talked to your son yet? When are you two going to make peace?" I would just smile and change the subject. I did not know what to tell them. That my son had betrayed me? That I had sued him? That we had not spoken in half a year? It was too painful to explain. So I just stopped mentioning him. And, eventually, They stopped asking. One Sunday afternoon, exactly 6.5 months after that terrible conversation in my living room, I was watering the plants in my yard when a car parked in front of my house. It was Mark's car. I stood frozen, the hose still in my hand, watching him get out. He looked different, thinner, with more gray in his hair, and an expression on his face I had never seen before. Genuine humility. He walked slowly toward me, stopping a few feet away, as if he were afraid to get any closer. "Hi, Mom." His voice was barely a whisper. "Mark." I did not know what else to say. Can I come in? I need to talk to you." Part of me wanted to slam the door in his face. Part of me wanted to scream at him for all the pain I had carried these months. But another part, the part that was still his mother despite everything, just nodded. We went into the house. He sat on the same sofa where we had that awful conversation. I sat across from him, waiting. The silence stretched between us like an abyss. Finally, he spoke. "I divorced Heather." It was not what I was expecting to hear. "When?" 3 months ago. The papers were finalized last week." "Why?" He let out a bitter laugh. "Because you were right. About everything. About her family, about what she was doing to me." "What happened?" I could not help but ask. "After the hearing, after the judge ruled I had to pay you, I went home furious. Furious at you. Furious at the system. Furious at everything. I told Heather we would have to tighten our belts, that I had to pay that debt and we could not keep supporting her family. And do you know what she said to me?" I shook my head. "She told me I was an idiot. That I should have put the condo in my name when I had the chance. That I should have convinced my senile mother to sign papers. That now we were ruined because of my incompetence." I felt a sharp pain in my chest. "Mark." "Wait, there is more. I told her that her family had to leave our house. They had been living with us for months, ever since you kicked them out of the condo. Not paying rent, not contributing anything. And she told me that if I kicked out her family, she was leaving too. So I told her, 'Fine, leave.'" He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "Mom, I was an idiot. A complete idiot. I betrayed you for a woman who only saw me as an ATM. For a family of parasites who never respected me. And why are you here now? Because you got divorced? Because you finally realized I was right?" My voice came out harder than I intended. "I am here because I have spent 6 months in therapy trying to understand how I became someone capable of betraying his own mother. And my therapist told me I could not move forward without at least trying to apologize. Even if you do not forgive me, even if you slam the door in my face, I need you to know that I am sorry. I am so deeply sorry." The tears began to roll down his cheeks. "I am sorry I gave Heather the keys. I am sorry I let them destroy your condo. I am sorry I lied to you for months. I am sorry I called you bitter and controlling when you were just defending what was yours. I am sorry for every cruel word I said to you. And I am sorry it took me so long to realize that the most important person in my life was always you, not her." I felt my own tears beginning to form. "Mark, you broke my heart. Not just because of the condo, because of the betrayal, for choosing strangers over your own mother. I know. And if I could go back in time, I would do everything differently. But I cannot. I can only promise you that I am going to pay back every last cent I owe you. I already spoke to my bank. I am taking out a loan. You will have your money in 2 weeks. It is not about the money, Mark. It was never just about the money. I know. It is about respect, about trust. And I know it will take years to rebuild that, if I ever can. But I want to try, if you will let me." We stared at each other. This man was my son. I had carried him. I had raised him. I had watched him become a doctor. And he was also a stranger who had hurt me in ways I never imagined possible. "I do not know if I can forgive you," I said honestly. "I do not know if things can ever go back to the way they were." "They do not have to go back to the way they were," he replied. "Maybe we need to build something new. Something more honest, where we both set clear boundaries and respect each other." I thought about that. About boundaries, about respect, about building something new on the rubble of the old. "I can try." I said finally. But it is going to take time. And it is going to require actions, not just words. I understand. I will show you. Bit by bit, with patience, I will show you that you can trust me again. He stood up to leave. Before he reached the door, he turned back. Mom, one more thing. What is it? I am proud of you. For defending yourself, for setting boundaries, for teaching me, even though it was the hard way, that love without respect is not love. That lesson, it saved my life. And with those words, he left. I sat in my living room as the afternoon sun streamed through the window, bathing everything in golden light. I did not know if Mark and I could rebuild our relationship. I did not know if I would ever trust him completely again. But I did know one thing. I had survived the worst betrayal of my life, and I had come out the other side, stronger. I had defended my dignity, my property, my future, and in doing so, I had defended myself. The condo was rented. The bills were paid. I had a roof over my head and food on my table. I did not have much, but what I had was mine. No one had given it to me. No one could take it away. And that, after all, was more valuable than any relationship built on the sacrifice of my own dignity, because in the end, I learned that blood may connect you, but respect is what defines a family. And if I had to lose a family to find myself, then maybe, just maybe, it had been worth it.